Hi there. It's Jennifer Gibson and
Aaron Gregory.
And we are here recording episode 4 of our podcast, West Rouge Real Estate, a podcast by Jill's Tea. This episode is a little bit different. Mm-hmm. First of all, we are not in my home. We are here at our office, which is located at the shops of Don Mills. And we came here today because we have our stagers, our staging team that we work with for selling homes. They offered to come in here today to record a special episode with us all about prepping your home for sale.
It is nice to kind of do a little bit of a different sort of podcast and get all the tips and tricks and insights and all the things for that goes on with the staging process. So I'm excited.
Next episode, we will go back to more of our traditional structure and take a look at what's been happening in West Rouge and the community. But we have a special episode this week, so
Yay.
Enjoy. Hello, everyone. We are here today with Jen and Asha from Imagine Interiors, and they have offered to come on and talk to us about prepping your home for sale. So we are very excited to have them here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, anytime.
Awesome. So we, our team stages pretty much every home we sell at this point, and it's because we believe so strongly in doing that to maximize the price your home sells for. So these guys are going to talk about some of the tips and tricks to that process, including why it's so important to have a professional to do that. And when we talk about staging with our clients, we always talk about it as kind of, we use the icing on the cake analogy. And you know, the process of kind of painting and doing maybe some minor renovations is like baking the cake. And then these guys come in and they're like the icing on the cake, and people pay a premium for, you know, nicely iced cakes. And they also pay a premium for beautifully staged homes. So So these guys are here to talk with us today about that. So what expertise does a professional stager bring to the process that homeowners might not have?
Okay, so I would say that I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Well, one, we're trained professionals. And staging is very different than just decorating. So I think about, we strategically place items, furniture, artwork, accessory to best showcase the home, highlight all of its attributes, and also detract from any of the flaws. So when we go in, we're looking like it's, unbiased view by a trained person who can see like what is it that the buyers are looking for, how can we best highlight the features in this home, and everyone wants to see light, bright, and spacious. So what can we do to create that? Yeah, so that would say that's what a stager brings to the table.
Awesome.
It's very helpful too, because there have been times when I'm like, leave that, I love it. And Jen's like, no, don't leave that. That is the wrong thing. So it's very helpful to have the.
I find a lot of people, they're attached to, their own personal taste, items that they might have had for a long time, or, they really invested a lot 15 years ago on, a particular fixture or piece of the home. And so there's an attachment, but, being able to like detach yourself and realize that we're trying to appeal to as many people as possible. That's where we come in. And I think that we can assist. And we also become like, just, even for you guys, just that unbiased, detached person that can advise specifically on it,
which is good. Can you explain the impact of clutter, or like how do you help people if they're like, like I love my orange painted room and I think everybody else should like it too, or I love this the furniture or whatever, or how that impacts the sale.
So I'm going to take that one. Think about clutter like noise, right? In a space, right? Clutter becomes these visual objects that you might not think are drawing people's eyes to, but in photos, especially because they're still, they draw your attention to those items instead of what they should be focusing on, which is a house. So decluttering, when we talk about it, it's not just let's say papers and items like that. We're also talking about family photos. We're talking about personal belongings. We really want the homeowners to clear the space so that we can have the potential to showcase the space at its best.
Yeah. And I think also we want to create a space that helps them to envision themselves living in that space.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to go into a place and think about mess, and you're thinking about cleaning.
Yeah.
You want to see like what it could be like,
Mhm.
right? And that means like maximizing the space. You don't want to see other people's pictures or like, lots on the countertop. Less is more.
I find myself looking when people have personal things. I'm looking at the house, but then I'm going, who are these people?
Yeah.
What do they, So
Yeah.
you're not paying attention to the things that you should be,
Yeah.
and you're more focused on.
Yeah, it can be
the
very
personal.
distracting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Go.
no,
Sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
One of the things that we tell people often in preparation for you guys coming is just, when you guys bring furniture into the home, you're not, the way a home is staged is not the way people live in their homes,
Yeah.
right? Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
live with more stuff than how your home is presented to buyers. Like, you have more storage things around,
Yeah.
but like you said, when you kind of remove all that stuff, then in photos in particular, it really kind of highlights the potential of each of the space, which is great.
And Jen, talking about photos, we think about it. Now we know that the buying journey starts online, right? So photos are important. They're not as forgiving as when you're walking through a home, right? So if that's the case, you want to make sure that it's presenting well, and clutter can really distract from it. So just ensuring that the photos are clean. You're not seeing anybody's personal stuff. I know me and Jen have gone online and saw listings where
We're
they
like, who is their realtor?
Yeah.
why didn't
Like, why haven't they talked to them?
you see like things on the counter, like
Yeah.
tables, stuff, and you're just like, wow, like it would have done a world if you just cleared your counter, so
I always say that, like when I see those photos, the first thing, as I said, was like, who's your realtor? Because I feel like if your realtor does not address these things and bring in somebody to assist you, they're actually doing you a disservice.
yeah.
Like you're not in the right hands if that's how you present your home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. We definitely agree with that, for sure. Talking, Erin mentioned the bright orange bedroom. One of the things that is usually the best return on your investment is painting, and I would say probably 4 out of every 5 homes that we sell, maybe even a little bit more, we do painting in some form, whether it's the entire house or just a couple bright orange bedrooms. But it really is the best return on your investment. So I guess for you guys, can you talk a little bit about why painting is so important, and why we tend to suggest we paint in kind of a lighter, more neutral color? Because sometimes when we're meeting with homeowners and they're very colorful people with colorful personalities, they think, well, you're taking all the personality out of my home.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? Why is it important?
And it's important to take all of the personality out, right? When we're decorating for someone specifically, we encourage the personality. When we're trying to appeal to the greatest amount of people, we need to take it out so that we're not choosing colors that are specific to taste. Also, light neutral colors allow for a blank slate. If you think about a show home, a model home, light neutral, we want to give them a blank slate so they can bring their personality in. It also helps to make the rooms feel larger. And everyone wants to see, I mentioned this before, light, bright, and spacious. So we do bring back in some color through the staging and some personality a little bit, but I would say we go vanilla. So people might love that bright orange accent wall or, wallpaper, these types of things, you're really in the best situation if you can appeal to everyone and neutralize it. It shows much better in your photos, and it helps to even, resell homes. It helps to make it feel new again, right? It's one of the most cost-effective and easiest ways to do that.
Right. And from the selling perspective, people will always pay the most amount of money if they have they feel like they can move into a home and they don't have any projects to take
Exactly.
on right away. So even though painting a bright orange bedroom doesn't seem like a big deal to you when you're selling, a buyer may think of that as like a much larger project than it is. So, to neutralize the space kind of takes that off their project list for when they move in.
Yeah.
If they don't like bright orange.
Yeah.
If they don't
but I often say, like, sometimes we pay for it either on this end or that end.
Yeah. Very
Right.
true.
So if like painting, it's actually quite cost effective for the impact that it has.
For sure.
So buyers tend to overestimate the cost of what it is. So if you can, proactively before going onto the market address it, then it's not on a big to-do list and an unrealistic ticket they've attached to that renovation or that project.
Yeah.
For sure. Happens a lot. That's one of the things that like we will recommend, like a staging consultation and staging. And then we also advise, and we usually do probably almost like 100% of the time, a pre-listing home inspection. So that's another reason to go in and take care of things if we find something or discuss how best to deal with them, whether we disclose it, things like mold in the attic, certain things like that. We can address them before potential buyers find this issue and go, well, mold in the attic, that's like $10,000 off. When in reality, it's more like $2,000. So things like that.
Right.
And then also minor repairs are great. So the amount of things that you eliminate from a checklist that a buyer has to do.
Yeah. With minor repairs, I think one really good thing about addressing them is just showing the pride of ownership on the home, right? So when you show that the home is well taken care of, these repairs have been completed, it gives the perception that this home was well taken care of and ultimately increases the perceived value of the home.
Yeah.
So I think, like you guys are mentioning, Jen had mentioned, you either pay for it now on this end or the other end. So really controlling the costs by taking care of the minor repairs and showcasing that this home was well taken care of will ultimately be in the best interest for the homeowner.
It makes such a big, as you're, like when I'm showing a home and you're looking at things and they just kind of start adding up.
Yeah.
So
Right.
like, and now we've got something over here and now we've got something over here. And it's, if these are the things that you can see, then your mind starts going to what's behind the walls.
Yeah,
And is
exactly.
this, how much do we want to invest in this? So
you're opening up a can of worms,
Yeah.
right? It starts from, that light needs to be fixed to, what else? You know, like, and now your eyes are like every
this
room.
paint is chipped. Oh, there's something over here. Oh, there's, and then they just, exactly.
Spirals.
Yeah. Spiraling is what we want to.
Yeah.
Do you guys have examples of some of the minor repairs that maybe people often kind of live with and overlook until it comes time to sell?
Sometimes I think things like hardware, switch plates, vent covers, even like caulking around bathtubs.
Oh, yeah,
right. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Around the sink, faucets, little things that, it could be a day or two of a handyman in the house.
Yeah.
Right. So these are some of the small things that I mentioned, like hardware, faucets, vent covers, switch plates, making sure that those are all clean. None of them are cracked. They're matching.
Yes.
All of those types of things. Small things like that when we say minor repairs.
Yeah.
There's the big ones too. But,
Yeah.
But
those little things, like what everyone has said, like they do make such a big difference to the overall feel and the overall care that you feel when you're walking through the home. So,
yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so we've talked mostly about the interior of homes. One other big thing is people's first impression with the exterior of the home and the curb appeal. And I know we've worked with clients before that will say, we heard this house is coming on the market. We think it could be a good fit for you, but then they drive by it. And because the curb appeal isn't something that is attractive to them, they're not even interested in seeing
Right.
the inside. So could you guys talk to us a little bit about why kind of the exterior of your home and the curb appeal is so important for creating that good first impression?
Yeah, well, it's exactly that. It's because it's the first impression. So they say generally within the first 10 to 15 seconds, a person makes a decision on how they feel about the home. Part of that 10 to 15 seconds is them driving up, seeing the home, the time that they spend even at the front door. Things like, is the front door painted? What are the light fixtures there? Like, what is the ground in front of it? All of those things matter because also during that time, the realtor's trying to get the key out of the lockbox and they're just staring around, taking it all in. Right. So how it's maintained, talking about the perceived value that extends to the exterior as well. That is the part of your home that you share with everyone. So I think,
I love that.
yeah, it is not just right. Like not everybody gets to come in, but the exterior, the exterior,
write that down.
the exterior you share with everyone. So it's also important. And it does get neglected, and it depends on the season. You know, in the fall, we'll suggest, you know, different things than we will in the winter or the spring. Fall is for mums, and in the winter time, it's just making sure things are neat and well groomed and maintained. We're talking about salt and it being safe and everything like that. In the summertime, like there's some landscaping to be done. But in all seasons, there's things to consider on the exterior of your home. It just depends on when, but it's just as important as the inside because that's the very first thing. Like once they get into the house, they're still thinking like, did you see outside?
Yeah.
And it's hard to even focus on what's inside if they've already been turned off by the exterior.
Yeah, if you can't get them in the door, then
Yeah.
like what's, you know, if they're already a no by the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I like to think when people are looking at a home, they walk in and they're usually like, if the outside is good, they're like up here. They walk in, they're still, you know, you want to keep them at that high level. And
Yeah.
if you start seeing too many things that they have to do, bring them down, bring them down, bring them down. So yeah.
The pride of ownership, right? Really, when you look at an outside house where the lawn is properly maintained, right? Things are in order. You're like, oh, it must look great.
Right.
Inside.
You're like, this is gonna be good.
Yeah. Versus like, you know, hedges uncut, like grass overgrown.
Yeah, right.
You know, you're just like, oh, what is going on in there?
Yeah. Things are happening. So going back inside, like we were talking about painting and how much value that increases, and light fixtures are a huge thing. And there's one example. Asha and I were at a house that we have coming on the market, and I was like, these light fixtures are fine, right? In the hallway, I like them, which Jen runs into as well. And then Ash is like, they're nice, but because they hung down a bit too low, it just, even though that they're okay, it makes it feel. So there's different things that I didn't even think of. I'm like, these are fine, leave them. But then a professional will give you other advice when you're like, I get it. So maybe you can speak a little bit on light fixtures.
Yeah, you know, proper lighting is so important. You want people to be able to see when they're walking through a house, right? So dark, dim lighting, you can't see the house properly, right? So you want to make sure that people can see the full house. Proper lighting, also knowing like when fixtures are too low, like the house that we were talking about, because it didn't have the high ceilings. We don't want light fixtures that are making it seem like the ceilings aren't high. So we recommend flush mounts. Also something as simple as opening up the drapes so that you can see in and get as much natural light in. So you're really coming back to the bright, spacious, light-filled room so that people are walking, they're feeling good, they're seeing everything. It's not a dimly lit place where you're like, okay, I'm scared, I need to get out of this space. You know, we've all walked through like a dark basement and you're like, let me get out of here.
Many a dark basement.
And
Yeah.
just lighting, how it has such, like I just came from the hairdresser.
Yeah.
The lighting there is never good.
Oh.
And you're sitting there and you're looking in that mirror and you're like, why do I look like this? Like why? And then you go somewhere else where the lighting is more appealing and you're like, oh, you know what, it's okay. I'm not that. So it plays a big role in all aspects of life. Yeah.
If I can add to that, another thing that the light fixtures do is, especially on some of the homes that are a little bit more dated, adding modern light fixtures can definitely like set the atmosphere for the room. right?
Yeah.
So a nice dining room, like, chandelier, something, we were going with a lot of black these days.
Love my black.
As
So
do I.
yeah. So switching, hardware and the light fixtures to be a little bit more modern, even in older homes. Once you add the painting and the
Yeah.
light fixtures, all of a sudden it definitely like instantly updates the space.
I have a 65-year-old home, and I put a really cool light fixture in my living room.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm in a 65-year-old home. The fixtures make and I think what they say is style. Like it's like the accessories to the home, right?
Yeah.
So think about like the jewelry, the earrings, right? It's a simple touch, but it's the accessories to your outfit.
Yeah, and really like a really affordable way to get such a big impact. Like, it's not like you're renovating a kitchen or a bathroom like some of those more expensive things. Replacing light fixtures, really, when you look at kind of the cost of renovations, it's a very affordable way to get a huge impact. One of the reasons and one of the things that your team does that we so appreciate is this staging report that you put together, which kind of gives clients like a room by room guideline for their furniture and what can stay and what can go. And often there's furniture pieces that can be worked with. Sometimes it's in their advantage to maybe give you guys a clean slate and remove their furniture. So can you guys talk to us a little bit about that process and how you decide on furniture placement and why that is kind of important? And we already spoke a little bit about how less is more when you sell homes, but kind of adding on to that conversation.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, we do a room by room checklist. So we go through and we'll take photos of each room, and then we go back and sit down and we take a look at what pieces do we need in each space to best showcase the size of that room and the function of that room, right? So whether the furniture has to be size appropriate first and foremost. We will suggest removing or moving pieces into another room if they're not size appropriate, if they're a little too dated, if they're very specific to taste, if they're a little too worn out, right? Some of us have kids and pets and stuff, and
everything.
and it's best to showcase it with like nice staged furniture. So we'll suggest that. Per each room. And also we want to make sure the functionality is very important. Sometimes we go into spaces and they might have 2 or 3 offices in a house. And we'll say, you know what, because this is supposed to be a 3-bedroom, let's show it that way. So we bring in furniture so that we make sure we're showing the function. So what the most amount of people would actually use each space for. The pieces that we remove are generally pieces that are just not going to be as impactful in the photos. So that's usually what we do. And then we'll bring in all of the right size appropriate, modern, beautiful pieces and coordinate it. We always use as many of the homeowner's pieces as possible. If it's not in their best interest to remove it, we'll never suggest that. We've had a lot of great clients that have great pieces and we can work with them. And then there's some homes that we're like, you know what, it's best to remove everything. It depends, but I think we collectively as a group have been really good at working with the clients on figuring out the balance between how we could best stage it and how they live and what they need to do also. So.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that I think is sometimes overwhelming for our clients is, if furniture isn't needed for the staging process, what they do with the furniture. So we always make sure we talk them through how we can kind of help them. Sometimes people have garage space that things can be professionally wrapped
in the garage anyway.
Wrapped and packed. It's like Tetris in the garage sometimes with kind of loading up the garage because that's not an area of the home that needs to kind of be presented anyway for the most part. Occasionally people will rent pods or their own self-storage units. So there's things that can be done to kind of help store your furniture for the selling process because it does make such a big impact on what their home is going to sell for. So
absolutely.
There's ways to help people. Yes.
Because it's all fine and dandy. You're like, get rid of this, and they're like, okay, but where does it go?
Where does it go?
How do we get it?
But I think you guys have done a great job with like assisting. We don't hear a lot of those like backlash, because you guys do a really great job in like assisting all of your all of your clients with that, all the homeowners. So I think within this group, it's been pretty good, because I know that it's not something that's left on them to figure out. It's not left on them to figure it out on their own, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
there's less like, resistance.
It
I
can
find.
be intimidating when somebody comes in and they're like, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to get rid of this,
Yeah.
this. And then it's like, it can cause like a great deal of anxiety to think about, well, what, like now it's just so much more work that I didn't think
For
about.
sure.
But we try to eliminate any extra work. Like it's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
this is what we're suggesting, and we will help you get
Yeah.
you there, like whatever we
Yeah,
can do to help.
nothing we suggest is not something that we're going to help people do
Right.
themselves.
Yeah.
And then
Like,
I always
good luck.
say that
Yeah.
if there is a suggestion that I make that is not convenient, it's my job to come up with a creative solution around
I
it.
love that when you
Right?
say that to people, and I'm like, but okay, that doesn't mean leave everything. Like, she's not going to come up with all the creative solutions.
There's only so many creative solutions.
But I
But
find
it-
that it alleviates the stress.
It
right?
does.
Yeah,
Knowing
It's
that
such a good,
knowing
Yeah.
that ultimately, like, it is your choice. We're all on the
Yeah.
same team.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
want it to sell. We want it to show at its
Yeah.
best. But if sometimes there's like these great big dark couches, and if it can't be moved, that's my first choice. But if it can't be moved, there's creative solutions. As a stager who's been doing this, you know that, okay, what I'm going to do is add light throw pillows, a light throw on this side, light area rug. So
And sometimes it could just be relocated, right? So
Yeah.
those
yeah,
big
another
comfy,
space in the house.
the basement, those
Yeah.
those big ugly, not ugly, sorry, but those
Well
big
loved.
If you
well
have one,
loved.
we love them.
Yes,
Just not for staging.
well loved
Yeah.
sofas. Sometimes they're great to just throw in the basement,
Yeah.
right? Create a rec area. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I say that
Repositioning
just
is
so
good.
that we know that we're like, it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
It
Yeah.
is good because sometimes you can see it like in the homeowner space, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like everything's gonna be fine. And then
Yeah.
when you say that, it's almost like, okay, like they've
Yeah.
got some sort of control over it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Because you do lose a lot of like, the realtor comes in, the stager comes in, like we're gonna do this,
Yeah.
we're gonna do this, and
Yeah.
so it's nice to
Yeah.
work and to like we are working as a team. and
Yeah,
doing it together,
absolutely.
which is good.
To
Yeah, no, you go.
to add to what you're saying, like one thing I do love about working with you guys is that you guys are so in tune to your clients' personal lives and the feelings. You never go in the home and you're invasive. Like you're very understanding, and that's actually one thing I think a synergy between our businesses. Because even with me and Jen, when we are going into homes, we do understand that it's one of the biggest financial transactions you're making.
Yeah.
We know that it's your personal space, so you're like opening yourself up, you're vulnerable. So there's really I think a sense of discernment that you need to have,
Yeah.
and just an understanding, and I don't know if grace is the right word, but
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
attitude that you have where you're really compassionate and understand
Yes.
that
Yeah.
this is a very could be a very stressful time, but
Mhm.
we're here to help, and we're going to transition you into the next
Yeah.
journey. Jen and I always say that, like, we're here to take care of this stuff so that you can focus on your next steps,
Mhm.
right? So
Finding the balance between that, but also making it beautiful and sellable.
yes.
Walking the tightrope.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think as a group, we've been able to do that really
Yeah.
well.
I agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which brings us to our next point where we talk about stinky houses.
Oh.
A nice smooth transition
Yeah.
from compassionate to smelly.
Yeah.
Odors are a big thing.
Yeah.
So odors are a big thing. And personally, I find every home has a smell. Like every home's
Yeah.
got a smell. Sometimes I walk into my house and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
But like we've all got it.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, I find that people will try to really hide a certain odor, or like they're using too many fragrances, which even though they're a nice smell can have the reverse effect. I walk in, I get a headache, and then I'm wondering what they're covering up. Like
Yes.
that's kind of where
Yeah.
where it goes. So whether the odors like are bad or too much of a good thing, like how are you how are you compassionate around that one?
I am so passionate, maybe not compassionate, passionate about this topic, okay? You guys, we all know that we are sensory people, right?
Mm.
So we don't just see with
Yeah.
our eyes, we see with our noses.
Mhm.
So it smells like smoke,
Mm.
smells
Yeah.
like pets, smells,
Strong cooking orders.
strong
right?
cooking orders, all of that. Yeah, those can really paint an unpleasant picture
Mhm.
in potential buyers' minds. So we always recommend neutralizing the smell, the basement's that smell of mildew,
yeah.
right? And it's a very delicate line because what you said about headaches. Sometimes we've walked into homes where after staging, I'm just like, oh my God, what happened? I have a headache because it's so strong.
Mhm.
So we try to say, okay, like don't go overboard with the plugins. There are a lot of like natural ways you can help with smells. So we say stick to citrus, vanillas, lavender. Think about like Scentsies and the diffusers.
Oh yeah.
Also, like, don't think you're gonna solve this issue today, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't plug in tomorrow. We just
Oh.
staged a home, and one of the recommendations was immediately stop smoking in the house.
Mhm.
Immediately,
Mhm.
make sure you're smoking outside now,
Yeah.
right? And starting to address the smell. So, recommendation is to don't deal with it day of staging, right? Address it before. Think about natural smells. You don't want to be giving people headaches.
Yes.
Walking through your home, and just really understanding that you're painting a picture
Mhm.
Yeah.
with your smell.
Yeah.
Deep cleaning.
Oh,
right?
deep cleaning.
Deep
Oh
cleaning
my
is
gosh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even carpets that
Yes.
don't look like they necessarily need cleaning can sometimes be holding odors.
Yeah.
So having a deep clean,
Windows.
the painting,
Windows. Yeah.
keeping windows open, allowing the place to breeze out, all of those things will help. And and that does have to be done before staging day.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Sometimes we'll suggest those like air sponges, and we'll
The odor absorbers.
Yes, exactly, and putting them in, like you said, like weeks ideally before a home is
'cause
actually
it takes
sold, because
time.
it'll kind of help to eliminate, along with the windows open. And then if you're adding in some of those nicer smells afterwards, then you don't smell anything behind those nice smells, which is
The
always
smoking
ideal.
in the house is so funny. Like it's just so like 90s. I like smoking in the. So it's even when I walk into a house and somebody's smoking it, you're like, whoa, this is like it's so out of the norm now.
It is.
And
It's not as common.
Even smokers and people with pets prefer to go into homes that don't have evidence of smoking or pets.
I have a dog and I like do my stretches in the morning, and I was on my carpet and I was like, okay, maybe we need to do a little shampoo here.
Yeah.
But I like, so I get it.
Yeah.
But I would much, when you walk into a space that's just like clean and nice and it's got, so much better.
It makes such a difference.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. And tactfully doing that, right? We have a little thing on our staging report that just reminds you, about things being white glove clean. That helps with the odors.
Mhm.
And we will, gently like just acknowledge a scent in a home, because that's what you guys bring us in for, is to make sure that we're brutally honest. So if there is
we
one,
don't have to be the bad guys.
Yeah. So when you talk about those odor absorbers, like we've recommended those plenty of times for basements, especially, and just being able to bring that to the attention, because the longer you're in a space, like we become immune to it, right?
You know that commercial, the smells that you become nose blind to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like a
like Febreze or something.
Febreze commercial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You become nose blind to them.
Yeah.
I miss commercials now. I don't have kids.
I know. I don't watch very much.
I know.
I'm pretty sure it's like years.
Yeah, maybe we're just dating
because
ourselves.
I haven't watched TV in a long time, and I know it. So
I know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
finding that balance.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion points of what we had on our agenda today.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Ladies, thank you so much for having us.
Oh my God. Thank
Thank
you
you
for everything that you guys are like amazing to work with, and you just make everything so easy. So it's a pleasure to work with you guys.
Well, you guys make
Yeah.
things very easy for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great partnership.
Yeah.
This was a great discussion, and hopefully some valuable insights into the process. That if you listen to this ahead of time and you have a house to sell in the next few years, it'll make you more prepared and comfortable with this process, and understand a little bit about why we do the things we do.
If you have questions about what, it's always better to ask. So if you've got a relationship with like, with your realtor, and you're like, maybe in 2 years or something, I'm going to get my home on the market. I'd like to update some light fixtures.
Yeah.
Bring the agent in, get the advice, get all of that
The
stuff. So you're
earlier, the better.
Yeah. And then you're
Yeah.
not, you haven't bought all these light fixtures and we walk in and go, well, so about that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to kind of, you can get
Yeah.
things that you like, but are also that would kind of appeal to selling your home as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
ladies.
you.
All right.